So we're going to look at some example benchmark fraction, percent, and decimal questions. And this page right here, this chart, is something, A, that you're going to need to use, but B, it's going to be really helpful if you just memorize it. And by memorize it, I don't mean like study it. I mean, you can, but I mean, a lot of these things are very self-explanatory. Is the same thing as dividing by 3. Go back. 25% is when we split something into fourths. This one's really easy. It's not one of those benchmark numbers, right? We don't see 60% anywhere. But 60 is a multiple of 10. If I split my whole into 6 parts, then 60% would just be, sorry, did I say 6 parts? If I split my whole into 10 parts, 60% would be, means I have a third here and a third here. So I'm looking at 1/3 plus 1/3 is the same thing as 2/3. So all I need to do is add those percents together. 33.3 plus 33. So let's take a look at how we can start internalizing some of this stuff. So we've been given a model and it says that this represents 100%. All right, so this entire thing is colored in and that represents 100%. Based on that model, we need to create 4 other models that represent the following. So let's look at our first one, which is 33 1/3%. The reason benchmark fractions make that super easy is that if we know that 33 1/3% is just something that we know, then I can just take this rectangle, and I can split it up into 3 parts, because 33 1/3% is 1/3 of a whole. So to shade this in, I'll just shade in exactly one of those 3 parts, and that would be equal to 1/3, or 33 1/3%. Sorry, not 33 point. Okay. All right, now let's look at our next one, which says that we need to find something that's 25%. So again, knowing that this entire model is 100%, we're going to start with that basic outline. And then we need to think about, like, what is 25%? Well, let's remember, because it's like money, 25 cents. That's a quarter. 4 quarters make a dollar. So we're going to split this up now into 4 parts. And then to make 25%, all we're going to do is color in one of those parts. And so 25% is the same thing as 1/4, or 25%. All right, for our next one, we've got 75%. So 75% isn't one of our benchmark numbers, but 75% you'll see is related to 25%. 25% times 3 is 75%. Just like if you have something that costs 75 cents, that would be 3 quarters. So we're still going to have to split this up into 1, 2, 3, 4 parts. But this time, instead of just shading in 1 part, I need to shade in 3 parts. So here's 25%, 50%, and 75%. So that would be my representation of 3/4, or 75%. All right, and then last but not least, we have 60%. All right, well, 60% is not against of those parts. So let's do that. I'm gonna make it a little bit bigger. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So now it's split up into 10 parts. And if I'm going to shade 60%, then I need to shade 6 of those parts. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that would be equivalent to 6 out of 10. I can reduce that fraction, which would be 3/5, or 60%. I'm going to go to this 3/5 real quick. So if I keep this exactly like it is, but instead of looking this at 6 pieces, I look at it as 5. So now I'd have it split up. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Notice how 3 of those 5 sections are shaded. So that's why it ends up being the same. It's just represented a little bit differently. 3. And then our next example, which percent is shown on the strip diagram? So now we're going the other way. So we have a strip diagram, and so we want to look at, first of all, how many parts is this separated into? I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 parts. So if it's separated into 6 parts, and I notice that 4 of those are shaded in, I'm looking for something 4 out of 6. Okay, that's my fraction, 4 out of 6. Now, one thing you'll notice is that this is the halfway point, right? So more than 50% of this diagram is shaded. So that tells me that this cannot be true. And likely not be, but we won't play any games like that. So more than half of this is shaded, 4/6 to be exact. If I reduce that fraction, that becomes 2/3. Well, this is one of those tricky ones. 2/3 would give me that 66 2/3%. You could also see that written as 66.66 repeating percent.